The town? They're starting to talk about his trial.
Here into the niche and see if we can get it to run.
Well, yeah, with no subject matter expertise.
Yeah, nobody's ever touched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, your chances are very slim.
It's like telling me to do laser eye surgery. Here's
I like the stuff that came out about Commonwealth Edison. I was so shocked.
Right.
I'm surprised that's the first time they got caught. I think they probably just got bigger and bigger what they.
I think they got overconfident in what they were doing. It grew and grew and grew, you know.
Yeah, they did. No, it's just that didn't come out till after the election.
Right. Yeah, interesting, huh?
He spent $1.2 million trying to defeat Seth Lewis. Little race over here, he failed.
That's one.
Yeah. You saw them, did you ever see the stuff they had on TV? Oh, just terrible. Him and UGAS.
Oh, really? Yeah.
UGAS won to him that this, like, he wanted pedophiles in the school.
Been tested. We're ready to go. Hey, Matt.
Matt?
Double duty today.
No, they used to get paid per meeting. Remember that?
We're doing mass. Did everyone do mass meetings all day today? Hmm? Do they? All right.
Yeah, more and more, I think.
If you can't hear me, let me know. Good.
Everything's good. Like this.
There's a lot of interest here, John, in your committee.
Good to see everyone here.
Looks like a bunch of farmers. Looking for money. Hey, what do you think he's gonna say?
Hey, Chris, how are you?
All right, it's 3:00, so I will call the Kane County CARES Act Allocation Committee meeting to order. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Hanson,
Hanson here.
Kenyon,
Here?
Fraz,
Here.
Sanchez, Surges, Thomas. Yeah, 4.
All right, we have a quorum. First item of business is approval of the minutes of November 4. Mr. Fraz moves. Mr. Kenyon seconds. Any comments on the minutes? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Hanson,
Hanson, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes,
Fraz,
Yes.
Sanchez, Surges, Thomas.
We'll show Mr. Surgis arriving at this point. Thank you for being here. Public comment, we have 2 people that were signed up to speak. The first is Lindsay De Los Santos. Is Lindsay here? All right, if you'd like to come up to the microphone and address the committee. Thank you for being here. We typically limit comment to 3 minutes, but if you're close or somewhere in that range, that'll be great. Thanks.
Okay, yep, I'm sure it will be within that range. Should I leave my mask on while I talk?
Whatever you're comfortable
you
with.
want us to hear you?
Okay, all right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, CARES Act Committee. My name is Lindsay De Los Santos. My husband and I own Sergio's Cantina in 1910 Bar in downtown Geneva. I'm reaching out to you today because restaurants have been shut down, as you may or may not know, to indoor dining for exactly a month today. And we're anticipating being shut down for possibly another 5 months until vaccines are able to be dispersed. I'm in an email chain with about 50 other restaurant owners in Geneva, and we have all expressed a need for help to one another. We have tried to retain all of our employees at our restaurant. For the past month, Sergio and I have kept them at their regular rates. And between both restaurants, we pay about $20,000 in labor costs to our employees. Many of us restaurant owners are surviving on about 10 to 20% of our normal income by providing to-go orders only. We are allowed to do outdoor dining, but as you can see, the weather's getting colder. We had a heated tent, but people don't want to sit under a heated tent, when it's 40 degrees. It's typical for many of us to have to pay at least $40,000 to $60,000 in monthly bills. Many of our rents and mortgages are $10,000 to $15,000 a month. Many of us, as Sergio and I do, save and prepare. But with the bills this high, being closed now for 3 months, it's very easy to drain your savings. Many of us restaurant owners, we kind of talk to each other to see if they received any CARES Act money from Kane County. We applied, we did not receive any. I'm not sure if that was because we had also received the PPP funding, maybe no. So I'm not sure what that reason was, but anyhow, the PPP funds were not enough to get us through the 2 months of shutdown. Then in the spring and summer, being limited to 50% of our seating with tables 6 feet apart. And then now being shut down again for the past month. In Illinois, not Kane County, but Illinois in a whole, there are 588,700 restaurant and food service jobs in 2019, according to the Illinois Restaurant Association. This contributed to 10% of the state's employment. I'm not sure. I was trying to find numbers to see in Kane County what percent of employment were provided by restaurants, but that's Illinois, so I don't know what the statistics are here. With over 300 billion in sales, restaurants are essential in providing jobs and revenue for the state. According to surveys done by the Illinois Restaurant Association, it's estimated that anywhere from 30 to 85% of restaurants will close permanently, depending on how long the shutdown will last. It's something that's in our minds, as restaurant owners as well. But we just feel like we have a duty to, to our employees and to our vendors, to be as strong as we can and stay open. The Economic Development Director in Geneva stated that there was a 41.5% decrease in restaurant sales from April to June. And keeping in mind, this was part of our patio season too. So I am here today because we are asking for your help. We understand that all businesses have been suffering, but we believe restaurants have been hit the hardest. All of the other small businesses have not had a mandated shutdown for the past month. There are many communities all over Illinois that are supporting their restaurants. DuPage County is providing $15,000 grants to restaurants for business expenses. There are several cities that have used grant money from their counties to help out restaurant and bars. The Village of Plainfield established the Plainfield Small Business Relief Grant of $5,000 for restaurant and bars that demonstrate economic hard loss due to COVID. The City of Crystal Lake also provided relief to restaurant and bars in grants up to $15,000. In addition, they offered a $1,000 reimbursement for helping to keep the community safe by putting up plexiglass walls, tents, gloves, masks, etc. The City of Highland Park established the Financial Assistance for Retailers and Restaurant Grant Program. They can get up to 50% of COVID-related expenses up to a maximum of $10,000. So that's been another issue. It's also in light of losing 80% of our sales, we're also having to spend a lot more on things like tents. The tent was $700 a month or a week. Glove prices, I think for boxes, they used to be $10, now they're $30, and we're going through gloves like crazy. So in order to keep our community safe, it has cost us a great deal, which we are happy to do, and we have abided by. And I think most of the restaurants, I know in Geneva, there are some that are not following the rules, but we have followed the rules, and I think that the majority of restaurants have followed the rules by closing the indoor dining. I think that the mayor of Highland Park hit the nail on the head when she said, "We carefully reviewed our budget and made adjustments to help our valued restaurants. They are the heart of our community and in need of all the help that they can get." And that's all I have.
Okay. I think your concerns are shared by our committee, and I think we'll have some information further on in the meeting if you stay here to see about additional program that we're instituting. So hopefully that can address your concerns. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for listening.
All right, next person signed up to speak this afternoon is Paula Schmidt. Is Paula Schmidt here?
I'm here on Zoom.
Okay, Paula, you have the floor. Please
Okay, thank
proceed.
you. Good afternoon, and thank you for taking the time to listen to myself. I'm Paula Schmidt, president of the Geneva Chamber of Commerce. And with me today also in Zoom is Scott Lieben, our chairman of the board. And Scott, would you like to say a quick something too?
Yeah, if I could, we certainly appreciate the idea that we're focused on small businesses. You know, we are a destination for small businesses, but we've also become a destination for restaurants, and restaurants have an undue burden. Probably the small restaurant does. They don't have a large chain behind them, so they have to support not only the upkeep of the restaurant, the rent, the employees, and we know that a good portion of our revenue that comes into town in tax base comes from them. So we don't want to know that we're going through this for this year and probably maybe into the winter of this next year, but hopefully by summer starting to come out of it with the various alternatives we're going to have for inoculation and so forth. We're positive about the future, but we want to make sure that our restaurants are still here and able to focus. Many of them have been in business for more than 10 years. They've supported the towns. They kept our revenue flowing. They're bringing in the business also for the small retail shops in town. So it becomes extremely important for us to understand and try and put ourselves in their shoes. And we know you've allocated some money available, but as you look at the distribution of that money, it's going to become important to consider this as a vital part of our community that we want to see exist as we come out of this on the other end. So we would like you to do anything you can to support the restaurants, because they have suffered unduly, and it's probably going to get worse through the winter because they are limited in what they can do. And shops can be online, retail shops, and sell through online and so forth. And certainly they're being affected too, but restaurants are almost shut down as we start getting into these cold months because they can't be outside in tents and other venues. So we would just like you to consider that. We think it's very vital for us in the Fox Valley and Kane County coming out of this as soon as this is over, to make sure that we have done everything we can to keep those people that have worked in our community for so long and built up our community as a destination for fine dining, that they're still here. So those are our comments, just to consider that. Paula, that's all I would say.
And the only thing that I wanted to add is that as you are allocating and your funds in different directions, or processing the applications that are coming in, to really keep in mind that these locally owned businesses and restaurants need it so much. It's small town America here in Geneva, and they really do need your help. So we want you to keep your eyes open for that. So we appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the committee under public comment this afternoon? Mayor Burns?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Let me echo what I wrote to all of you a few weeks ago. My thanks and appreciation for your good work. We are sincere when we say thank you for all the hard work you've put in. I have two questions today for the chairman of the committee, and whether you can provide those answers immediately or later is fine with us. I'm here representing the city of Geneva, of course, and I'm also representing Metro West Council of Government. My first question is this. I understand that this committee had at one point perhaps considered whether or not eligible small businesses would be defined as eligible if those small businesses were first and foremost in compliance with the governor's executive orders. And I'm wondering if that's going to be a stipulation with respect to round 2 funding. My second question is this, that when this process is complete, where could the average citizen find a comprehensive list of all organizations who have either A, sought support, were denied support, and or received support, and the amount? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Burns. I will address your questions as we go through the agenda, and if I don't do that during the course of the agenda, I'll do it before we adjourn. All right. All right, under discussion items, first item is status of funds. Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Chairman, we had a beginning balance of $92,900,217.90. In the course of the year, we've earned $115,174.86 in interest. We've made distributions of $19,796,056.11. Our current ending balance is $73,219,336.65.
Thank you. Any questions of our treasurer? Hearing none. Next item is application process timeframe. As we've discussed at prior meetings, just an update, and this ties into item C too, the timing of distributions. All of the programs that were closed out in terms of time deadlines are moving forward. We had the county's applications, those have been approved. Funds are going to be distributed via fund transfers internally. The municipal applications have all been evaluated, approved. It's my understanding that the documentation with the intergovernmental agreement from the municipalities have been returned. We're giving those a final look, and it is the expectation that disbursements will be made by early next week on those, or maybe later this week, depending on the timing. The distribution to the cities and villages will be by way of an actual check because of the way the system works. So the process will be that we'll contact the municipalities, and they'll be free to have someone come here and pick the check up at the treasurer's office or wherever we designate the pickup spot to be. So that's moving forward. The other units of government are just about 5 days behind the municipal application process and funding process. So we're going through those intergovernmental agreements at this point. Expect that those, the documentation that they send in will be vetted by our consultant and state's attorney's office, with the expectation that funds would go out to them either next week or Monday or Tuesday of the following week, given the Thanksgiving holiday. The not-for-profit applications have been approved by us, and we've approved funding. Their application have been received now. We've gone back to them with proposed agreements, and we have a couple resolutions today to address the funding agreements with them. And if we give the direction of the staff to move forward with those items, those will get funded as well. We, at the last county board meeting, and based on action of this committee at our prior meeting, we authorized moving forward with a second round of business grants, as well as grants to history museums and performance arts centers, or performing arts centers. I should start out by pointing out our original business program is in the process of having applications vetted. We had fairly stringent requirements for that process and program with significant income limitations and number of employee limitations and some pretty sophisticated documentation requirements. And the motivation for that was to minimize fraud and to make sure that the funds were going to the parties that were most in need. In that process, it became clear that, a group of the applicants had everything we needed. Their applications are there and ready for approval. The second group, which is a significant portion of them, were missing certain documents or were not in compliance. And to the extent that someone wasn't in compliance, they were given time by our staff to supplement their application. The most recent and final deadline for that is November 25th. And so staff is waiting for receipt of the additional documentation. We'll complete that process then, and then notices will be going out to the recipients under the original grant program. If you recall, the parameters for that in terms of available funding was a maximum of $20,000 per business if they had been in business for more than a year, and $10,000 for newly formed businesses. And that brings us to the program that we had authorized and adopted a resolution at the board meeting to move forward with these 3 new grant programs of significance. And in response to the public comment today, we did we're coming up with 3 programs, which Mr. Berger's office is in the process of developing and presenting to us. The business grant program was a more simplified version, and it did a couple things different from the prior program. It eliminated the income limitation and the employee limitation. It increased the per grant availability to $25,000 per applicant. And the concept of the program, as outlined in the resolution, was that we would get the applications out, we would continue to take those in, and the funds would be there. The applications would be processed until the funds were exhausted. I did receive an email as I was sitting here The goal was to get this application process available and a portal established. That's been done and completed, and as we sit here today, there is a ability for entities now to apply. So we should be encouraging all of our entities, including the ones that spoke here today, to make an application. The theory is this process will be simpler and can be processed more quickly. It's my understanding that the technology in terms of the receipt of applications and vetting of applications is going to be similar to the program that we use for riverboat applications. So from a staff evaluation and processing and approval turnaround timeframe, it'll be much quicker. To the first question that Mayor Burns asked, included in that group is it isn't restrictive to restaurants, although we anticipate we'll have a number of restaurant applicants because those are the ones that are entities that clearly have expenses that they're not having corresponding revenue to pay for. But with respect to the request for compliance with law, that's kind of an interesting question. And I guess, as we know, just from a recent ruling in Kane County, the initial ruling for a local restaurant was that they were not violation of law, and a temporary restraining order was entered. And then that was reversed by the appellate court, but that case goes on to the Supreme Court. And so just as a matter of intellectual discussion, we could debate whether someone who stays open right now is actually violating the law, because that hasn't been finally determined. It's interesting that the question's asked. I don't know what the mayor's perspective is as to which way we should go with that issue, but for sake of expediency and to get this program up and running and vetted and funded before the end of the year, it's just not reasonably practical that we can evaluate whether a business is in compliance with the law or not. We certainly can evaluate whether they're in good standing. We can evaluate if they're located in the county. We can evaluate if they're operating businesses and have had incurred expenses that they've lost. I guess there's a policy debate as to if someone is defying the governor's order, that doesn't mean that they haven't had lost expenses either. So from an equity standpoint, does that disqualify them? But I can answer the specific question. We did not include in the program outline a prohibition about being open for business or not, because we just don't have the way to vet that given the time frame we have. Now, obviously, the committee can change its mind on that, but I think given where we're at right now, and given the fact that the law, in my opinion, is somewhat unclear, I think I read yesterday that it looks like 10 different cases throughout the state have been consolidated, and that the Supreme Court is actually taking the case, which isn't necessarily an automatic process where they would consolidate like that. So we can expect a ruling, but who knows when that's going to come out, and it may not come out. We may have to fund these grants before that ruling would come out. So that's the best answer I can give to that question at this point. Moving on with the rest of so as it relates to the history centers and not-for-profit or the performing arts centers, the application portals for those are being worked on now. Those will be easier to vet because there's a limited number of history centers that are local in Kane County. And there's also the performing arts venues are more limited in number. I did receive a correspondence from one of the individuals who's involved with the Paramount, and I know that this group was inclined to consider them as a qualified entity under that performing arts concept, but they're not a not-for-profit 501c3. They have a different source of funding or organization that runs them, and so As we develop the criteria for that, we're going to tweak that to accommodate that. In Elgin, the Hemmons is also, I think, City of Elgin run in some capacity. So I don't think it was the intent of this committee to disqualify them if they weren't technically 501c3. The theory was that if they provided, if it was a venue located in the county that provided performing arts, we know that they've all been closed down, that they would qualify. And so, so that as that program outline gets developed, I saw a draft of that this morning. We'll be seeing that and approving that to accommodate that concern. As far as the not-for-profit applications, moving down the agenda, as I indicated before, we're in good shape to move forward with funding there. We do have some resolutions that we need to move forward in terms of the technical part of authorizing disbursements and agreeing. So what I'll do is under new business, under the new business portion of the agenda, well, let me stop right here because I've been giving a monologue here and I certainly want to include the committee, but that's everything that's been going on in the last few days. I think given the fact that a lot of activities going forward, I anticipate maybe having a brief meeting next week just to kind of set the parameters for what else has to be done. And then we'll have a series of resolutions that will be moving on to the full board for consideration when the new board is seated at the December meeting. So with that background, any questions of the committee? Mr. Fraz?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that when we get to this second round, that we get the word out, whether it's through, I just don't think we engaged the newspapers enough last time. But we definitely need to get a press release out. We got to engage the chambers. We got to use Kane County Connects. But, just putting it on our website's not enough. And we really have to engage the board members. I know as long as we got people from Geneva here, I walked Geneva with a handful of applications and personally dropped them off, including Sergio's one day. And I also did Elburn too. So we need our board members to get out there and let people know this is there. We did have a flyer printed up last time, and again, it wasn't really utilized very much. So hopefully that will be one of our priorities on that. A question, if somebody applied for the previous application or the previous business program, would they be able to apply for a second round?
That's under the protocol that we outlined. The answer would be yes. And the theory being that, we set aside, I believe it was originally $8 million. This funding round is $5 million plus. And the expenses that were incurred the first time were an earlier shutdown, and now we have a new shutdown. And so the two programs will work independently. There is a restriction, however, in the second round that they can't seek recovery for expenses that they would have applied for in the first round.
Okay. And then I guess I'll ask Fabiola or Scott Berger. I would like to see if we could get a list of the original business applicants and which were approved and which were not approved. Is that possible? I know several of us have worked with businesses weeks ago, and we just want to know how they stand.
I was expecting this at a later point, but it's the intention of the program to bring in waves these applications as they're being approved, so that when you look at them, they are fully vetted, documents are all there, and they just need an approval. So at that point, I'll release that list. So they'll be in chunks.
Okay.
November 25th is the date that we gave for additional documentation, right?
For the first,
First, right,
I've gone up to 1.3 million. So for that first 1.3 million.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just finally, you talked about the venues, and when we brought that up, I never expected to exclude them, even if they're connected to a city government of some sort or not for profit. I think they're just we're hit particularly hard, and they're fairly large organizations. So I think we should be as broad as possible with our leeway with them.
Anything else from the committee? Mr. Hanson?
Thank you. Good afternoon. And thank you for all your hard work and going through round one and all these different programs and also establishing a second program for people to pursue. Regarding the second program, if a business in round one has not heard a final verdict yet on if they've been approved or not, how should they proceed with round two?
What I was waiting for that information as to where to send applicants, and I got that information from Scott Berger's office. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change my communications to applicants. When I ask them for supporting documentation, I'll also link them to the new application so they can simultaneously work on that. For those that have already been declined, I will work through them and send out just a blast email with that information so that they can start working on those. So it's my intention as I come in contact with these applicants that I give them the information where they can go to.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Surges?
Raj, I'm still not able to get on the internet here at all. I don't know if anybody else is, but none of my devices will connect. But I had sent out an email the other evening, just trying to understand. And I believe I mentioned that in my perception, there were about 160 businesses that were declined in the first round.
Microphone.
Let's try that. There were about 160 that were declined. I have no idea where I got that number. Somebody just told me and it kind of sank in. And my goal is to be able to obtain a list of those that were declined. And I'm having trouble. And Fav, I understand that you just got up and said, hey, I'll get those out to you when I can. Well, if the deadline is the 25th, and part of our role is to help facilitate those businesses that are claiming that they've turned stuff in, I have zero transparency whatsoever to say, I see you on the list, I don't see you on the list. You were communicated here, you didn't get it in. Here's what you needed to get in. Don't worry about it. Just click this button and you'll go to a new one that's easier and you actually get more money for it. I'm not wholly comfortable with that. I'd like a copy of the list and I don't understand why that's not readily available to us.
So I'm working through them. So my concern right there with that comment is if you redirect them to the new grant, those $20,000 and doesn't get allocated and sits there. So it doesn't go anywhere other than back to the US government. So my intention is to work with each one of these applicants and cure them before the December 30th date. I am going to cut them off at December 15th. Simply because you need to have a final amount of available funds so that you can reallocate as needed. But to recap, 251 applications came in, 50 have been denied, 135 are pending, 65 owe me $1.3 million in support due on the 25th.
So it's 50 instead of 150.
Yes.
And Bob, please understand, I'm being as honest as I can. Where did I get the 160 figure? I have no idea. That somebody just rumored that and told it to me. And the sad part for me is I can neither refute or support because I have nothing. And so of those 50 declined, I think there's 4 to 5 of them that have contacted me personally from my district saying, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do now. To which I've said, me neither. Well, aren't you on the committee? Surely am. Well, how did you know we didn't get ours? Because I don't have a list. I'm blind, I'm helpless, I don't know what to do. I certainly don't want to step on anybody's toes. I'm not trying to get in anybody's grill here, but I am trying to give them information to say, the very nice folks that are administering this asked you for this, you did not turn it in. Would you do?
You know, early in the process, I got calls from committee members and board members saying that their constituents got screwed, got, inappropriately denied and whatever. And so I asked for examples of those. And I'm not in the weeds here with the specific information. And of course, when you look for a specific answer, you find out that they either had more income, more revenue. They weren't a corporation in good standing, which can be for a number of reasons. And so the criteria that we had established, they couldn't meet. All right. So, but I do think it's appropriate that for those who are denied, that we do get a list of who has been denied and the reason for that, so that we have the ability to respond as you've indicated. So I don't think, sometimes, as you know, as a board member, you'll get constituent complaints, and certainly they're very compelling, but it's important to understand the information before you respond or before you repeat it. And I agree, we should make it as transparent as we can. So if you can work on getting that out, I'd appreciate it.
And
then if there's a
again,
problem-
no intention whatsoever to get in the weeds, but I would like to tell these people, you were asked, you did not respond. I mean, enough. And for those who truly don't qualify, don't waste time going through round two. But for those who do, let's encourage them to get out there. Drew, I have every intention of walking, everyone that I can, but I certainly don't want to walk into a situation that's already been declined, wind up spending 45 minutes there and getting beat up over something that we can't overcome. And I just want to.
To your earlier question, though, if someone was declined because they had 2.6 million in revenue, they, under our new criteria, they could apply and qualify. So, and they actually should know why they were declined. But the point is, so to answer your question, if someone's unclear, have them apply again. There is going to be a cross-check between applicants who have applied previously to make sure we're not double paying. And Mr. Berger and I had a discussion regarding that, and he's prepared to deal with that. So instead of putting someone in the position where they can claim again that they've been mistreated.
That would not be the intent at all.
No,
Yeah,
but
that's.
I would say, go ahead and apply again. That doesn't hurt anything. This process should be more streamlined, and hopefully, if they did their original application and they provided all the requested documentation, they should already have that information available to them.
So of that list of 50, when do you think we could get that? Is that something that's really easy, like, here, we already have it, or no, this is going to take 3 hours and?
No, my priority right now is to get the municipal applications out. I can go ahead and put that on hold and refocus on the small businesses and get it out to you tomorrow. It would just be up to I would defer to the chair on what my priority will be.
I'm looking for you for some guidance here.
Well, I would say that, I mean, I'd want to get the municipalities done, and I think if we could by early next week have that list,
Okay.
that should be sufficient.
When's the 25th?
Wednesday.
I mean, so if is Monday too early to get that? 'Cause that would give us.
You'll get it Wednesday. That's what I can promise you. You'll get it Wednesday. I have applications to review for the municipalities, the small units of government. So there's a lot of moving parts with those checks that are coming out. So I want to make sure that I'm giving those emails out
I
correctly.
understand. I'm just not sure that Wednesday gives me any time to reach back out to somebody and say, but you didn't do this. And if you just do it, they can help you. That's what I'm trying to do. That's the objective here.
Mhm.
And I hear what you're saying, but is there another resource that we can give FAB to help us out with that?
It really is just everybody's gonna have to wait patiently for me to get that. If I can get it to you before then, I will. But at the earliest I can get it to you is Wednesday.
All right, we'll have further discussion and maybe we'll have a meeting before then so we can vet that. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you very much, Mr. Hochheit. When will the second round of business applications be open for people to apply?
That is, as we speak, the portal is being opened.
Okay. The reason why I ask that, and it becomes an important question, is that it does sound like it'll be first come, first serve. And with the criteria being more general now, My guess is that there is a possibility that there will be more applicants than money at the end of that second round, possibly. And if it's first come, first serve, then we need to establish what the opening time is. And so the opening time, I know it's in the process of being open, but does that mean that like this afternoon, somebody could go and apply? Or is it tomorrow on Friday?
If the portal's open, I believe that it would be open for at least evaluation. Now, there's documentation that has to be gathered to do it. So you theoretically could have complete or submitted applications tomorrow.
Okay, so tomorrow, let's say that maybe it opens up at 9 o'clock or something like that. Will there be time stamps on the applications that come in so that, if there's trouble, and let's assume there won't be any trouble. Well, we have to assume that if there is trouble, timestamps will be important in establishing, well, when did applications come in? Will there be a timestamp?
Mr. Berger, I believe the answer is yes, because it's being submitted electronically, so we would be able to monitor the time frame. Is that accurate, Mr. Berger?
Yes, that is correct. The Zoom grant portal automatically date stamps and time stamps the moment of submission on the part of the applicant.
Okay, thanks. And then just the specifics. I know the skeletal, but on the $25,000 grant, I understand that it eliminates the limit on the number of employees. Let's see, whether they're in business or not in business. Can someone run through, and actually, number one, is there the specifics in writing someplace? Would that be at that portal?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So if we go to the portal, we'll get the list and I won't have to
Right. Okay.
bother the time. Thanks.
All right, any other questions from the committee? Mr. Fraz?
Yeah, I know Scott Berger sent out this notice to us, and it came literally as most of us were probably driving here, walking in the door. So, it says we're happy to announce that King County is now accepting grant applications from local businesses. So with that, Scott, I just want to be assured, are you going to be sending out a press release to the local newspapers, contacting King County Connects and chambers?
Yes, we're working on that right now.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm so sorry to be specific about this, but there will be, at the end of the process, people who will feel that they were left behind, and we just have to have what the starting line is. So I was wrong about that 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, trying to get some specific. It really is when that announcement was made. So is that roughly 3 p.m. November 19th? Is that?
It was 3:27 p.m. today.
Okay, so that, don't want to refer back to Alice in Wonderland, but so as of 3:27 on November 19th, they can start, and then there is a timestamp. So when there might be dissatisfaction at the end, it'll be able to be sorted out.
Right.
Thanks, Drew, for that clarification.
Hey,
Okay,
Drew,
if there's
I'm
no-
so sorry, Drew, the round 2 application is up.
Yeah.
Were you able to click on it and?
All right, then if we're prepared to go through new business, we have resolutions for consideration. And again, these would be pushed forward to executive and then the full board at the December meeting. The resolutions that are on the, well, we've got some that were sent to us today and some that were sent elsewhere. Sir, I'll be glad to talk to you at the end of the meeting, sir, okay? The resolutions that are under the new business section of the agenda, the first two deal with additional emergency expenses. And it's my understanding that staff has requested additional funding for 2 projects. One is for a generator for the health department for being able to keep vaccines refrigerated or maintained. And so that's item number 1. And item number 2 is for additional air purification equipment. Is there someone here from the staff that wants to address this request with the committee? Or these requests, I should say.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Do you have any specific questions or you want to?
If you could just outline the two components and their cost.
Yes, sir. So in support of the request, the emergency request for the health department's backup generator, the current generator they have is improperly installed and not to standard for the purpose of the use for the refrigeration and freezer units. The health department is getting ready to receive vaccines, which need to be kept at a very specific temperature. So if we had a dip in power or power spike, loss of power, those vaccines would then essentially be destroyed.
Or what's the cost of that project?
The estimated all-in cost is $108,000.
And that could be completed before the end of the year?
We're expecting within 10 weeks, yes, sir.
Okay, and then what about the other request, the air purification?
So originally, with the original CARES Act that was provided to building management, the UV angels and the bioclimatic air filters were estimated to serve up to 16 buildings within the county. Upon further assessments and investigations, we have found ways with hopefully receiving the additional funds to address the other 10 buildings. So we're taking it from originally 100 UV angels and 10 bioclimatic filters to 250 UV angels and 20 bioclimatic filters, therefore addressing all of the King County's buildings areas.
And these funds were going to be reallocated from what was remaining in contingency, is that correct?
Correct. That's what I understand, sir.
All right, so any questions on those two resolutions? Mr. Hanson?
Thank you. Just regarding the HVAC improvements, they could be more time consuming than some of the other projects. Will they be able to be completed by the end of the year?
Yes, sir. That's what we're hoping.
Is there a motion to move these on? Mr. Kenyon moves, Mr. Fraz seconds, and this is for item 1 and 2. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Hanson,
Hanson, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Fraz,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Surges.
Burgess, yes.
Okay, passes.
Yes.
All right, the item number 3 is a resolution authorizing a budget adjustment for the reallocation related to September 14th discussion. Is this an item, Fabiola, that we want to move forward today? Mr. Isaac requested this, is it?
He did.
Okay.
I would defer to him on that.
All right. I think this is a housekeeping matter to keep up with what we had done and perhaps the most recent adjustments that we were making. So is there a motion to move this forward? Mr. Fraz, Mr. Kenyon, discussion. And of course, if that has to be tweaked, we'll deal with that at finance or otherwise. So clerk, please call the roll.
Hanson,
Hanson, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Fraz,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
passes.
Item 4 on the resolution wasn't included here. I know what we did, at least conceptually, was approve Northern Illinois Food Bank's amendment to its application to include as a permissible expenditure food purchases. Did we address this at at last county board, or does this need to be moved forward?
To be moved forward.
All right, so in order to carry out the recommendation and conceptual approval, this is the actual formal approval of that process. Mr. Hanson moves. Mr. Kenyon seconds. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Ms. Thomas. I'm on the phone.
All right, do you have a question, or are you just saying you're joining us?
Correct, I'm joining you.
All right.
My apologies.
Oh, thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Hanson,
Hanson, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Fraz,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't believe we have anything under item number 5, but we do have 2 other resolutions, or actually 3 other resolutions that were sent out today dealing with the ability of the state's attorney's office to sign the agreements with the not-for-profit organizations and small business entities that we had previously approved. In the packet was an actual grant agreement or a grant funding agreement that would be used with the not-for-profits and other recipients. So did everyone have a chance to review these before the meeting?
Chairman, I wasn't able to
Okay.
get it up, but I did send it to IT so that they can put it up on the
The
screen.
screen, all right. We can discuss these. So the first, again, the first two are housekeeping. One is approving the distributions for not-for-profits that we did. And then the other one is authorizing funding agreements, as well as the original business grant program agreements. So, you know what we could do, because I want to hold a meeting next week anyway, we can maybe put these on that agenda so everyone has a chance to look at these, and then we can move them forward. All right. Any other resolutions that we need to address at the meeting today?
We do. With the amendment that we did to the non-for-profits to allow for modifications in temporary housing, that allowed for expenses under the Lazarus House application to be fully allocated. However, for the Hesed House, there's still that small distinction between minor, major, and it would be an issue that I would bring up and have the committee pass a resolution exclusively allowing for the Hesed House application.
For that clarification. So that's another clarifying resolution we could have at our next meeting.
I would suggest just having that application approved directly by the
Okay.
CAC and then the county board.
That's fine. So if you want to do a resolution approving that for that next meeting as well. Again, we had discussed the Hesed House concern and situation, and I believe we had unanimous consent on moving forward with that. So this will be the documentation that you need to accomplish that.
Mhm.
Okay, so I know next week's a holiday week, but would it be appropriate or convenient to have a meeting maybe Tuesday afternoon?
It'd be just fine.
Is that okay with the committee?
We work every day, don't we, Joe?
3 o'clock?
3 o'clock? So can we direct the clerk and to send out the proper notice for that meeting? And again, it'll be updates on some of the issues we discussed. Hopefully, we'll have maybe some checks available for municipalities. I'll offer to deliver them free of charge if we don't want to save the municipalities money. But I don't know if their businesses or offices will be open. So having that communication with them will be helpful. Okay. All right. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I got one. little
Okay,
point.
Mr. Frost.
Just one thing I didn't mention earlier, I did maybe, but I'd like to be clear on it for Scott Berger and Mr. Fonstock. Last time, as I mentioned, we had a little half-page flyer that was developed.
Right.
So if we could do a new one of those and have them available at the county board mailroom. And also, I would suggest that we email it to both the current and the incoming board members so that everybody has it. They can email it to businesses they know of.
Right.
And get the word out.
The press release, again, to the newspapers, to Kane County Connects, and to all the chambers of commerce. Right.
And I'll make a motion to adjourn then.
Okay. So move Mr. Kenyon seconds. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.